Well, welcome to the Broker Bartenders, everybody. Had a great opportunity to sit down with Jason Mitchell, who is the CEO of the Jason Mitchell Group, based out of Scottsdale, Arizona. They are actually the number 1 real estate team, mega team by volume in the U.S. Last year, I think they did close to $4.5 billion in total sales. I think projected to go to $5 billion this year.
Unreal.
So definitely see how that goes, and looks like it's headed that way. So really, just a great format and system that he has set up with this platform for JMG and what that offers agents and the opportunities to do that. So I had a chance to sit down with him a couple weeks ago and talk a little bit about the state of real estate and talk a little bit more about JMG and what that platform offers his agents outside of any other brokerage in the country.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure.
So at every broker bartender episode that we do, we have a guest on. We always fire off with the first question.
What's my favorite drink?
What's your favorite drink? And why? Why is it your favorite drink?
I always go with a Tito's Neat, followed by a Coors Light. Just old school,
Nice.
Detroit, kind of just regular old beer. And if I go to a nice dinner, I like a martini, slightly dirty, regular olives. I
Tito's?
had one last night. I just stick with
Or just
Tito's.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I think Grey Goose is probably a little bit better, but I'll stick with Tito's. It's fine. So yeah, I mean, every now and then I'll have a little martini, but other than that, nothing fancy. I'm not like an old fashioned guy or anything like that. But
See, that's my side. The old
it
fashioned.
should be my
kind
side.
of trendy.
I think it's the guy's drink you should drink. I just don't drink them.
Yeah. Right.
Don't know.
So it was funny because when I was talking with some people, they were saying, when I asked them, I said, what do you think he's going to say? And they said, it's probably going to be some sort of tequila something.
I don't mind tequila. If I have tequila, it'd be neat. But I don't know. I like vodka better. My body is better with vodka. But I also don't drink, like, I don't even know the last time I caught like a real good buzz, right? Like it just, for me, I don't think I'll never not have a cocktail, but I'm pretty good when it comes to like knowing my tolerance levels and stuff like that. That's not to say I don't enjoy drinking here and there, but I also I'm not 25 years old anymore. So.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Is there any recipes that you have for your drinks that anything used? I mean, pretty much Tito's Neat is pretty much Tito's Neat, right?
Yeah.
I need to crack a beer or anything like that, but
Just
I
need
didn't
a
know
shot
if you had any
glass.
does Marissa have any cocktail recipes?
She don't drink.
Nothing like that?
She don't drink.
Yeah.
I mean, if she drinks once every 2 months. Once in a blue moon when we'll go to Vegas, she'll have a drink. And then I got to deal with her after one drink because she's 95 pounds of feeling buzzed and all that other stuff. So she does not. She very, very rarely has a drink.
Oh, gotcha.
Very
Okay.
rarely. She's got 3 kids that she's got to manage. So she just
Don't have time.
doesn't have time. And but no, she very rarely has a drink.
Well, let's get into the JMG side. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about, and I'm not going to go through the model. I know you've done a lot of podcasts where you talk about here's exactly how things work,
Yep.
right? So what I want to talk to you today about, and let's kind of go back. So I'm kind of going back to like 2010.
Yep. 2010.
Yeah, let's go 20. So, or you tell me when you were when you started, the light came on how JMG was going to go, and how this was going to get set up, and how the referral thing was going to work. At what point do you? And I know you remember a lot. At what point did that light switch go on for you and say, "Wow, I have something here that could be pretty good that really nobody else is doing"? What was that light bulb moment for you?
I think it was when I started to realize that I could provide opportunities to a couple buyer agents that I had, and they started closing deals, and the word leverage just was like right there to me, like, wait a minute, hold on, something clicked. Instead of chasing a consumer around, if we can build a process around servicing other organizations who have the business and we do a good job, the leverage you can create is just phenomenal. And leverage is something that agents have a really tough time with because they find themselves like, I want to close it. I want all the commissions. but they don't realize the time spent to do that. Like what I always say is, if you're a successful agent, you should not be servicing certain consumers. You should pick and choose your consumers. And that's where I got to in my career when I was still in the field, was I started working with the consumers that I wanted to work with, and the other people that I still wanted to service, they were better fit working with my agents because they could service them at the level they deserved to be serviced at, where I couldn't give that to them. But a lot of agents hang on, and then they take, because once you take on a client, they're yours.
Right.
Right? So it's the initial handoff of the word greed comes to mind, because they say, well, it's a $400,000 consumer, in a normal world of 3%, I'm going to make 12 grand. I don't want to give this to my buyer's rep because I want the full 12 grand. Well, okay, but how long does it take to make that? Like for me, I never wanted, I cared about scale, not volume. And in order to create scale, you got to do a lot of transactions. So I never worried about how much money am I going to make on a consumer. It was always, they be serviced better with somebody else? But the cool thing that turned out to happen was my agents were happy to work with those consumers because they were making more money, closing more deals, working with more people. And all of a sudden, because I just provided the business, I was getting a check too. But the reality is that the only thing I provided was the business, which is important, and a process. And so back then, probably in 2011 and 12, when I started getting referrals from our first partner, my thing is that, all right, I can build leverage. And this was in Phoenix, and I didn't have any agents at the time. It was just me. And I had rebuilt because in 09, I had lost everything. So 2010 was my first year back in real estate. And that first year back in real estate, I made 130 grand. But 130 grand to me then, because I just filed bankruptcy because I'd lost everything. And I did quite well, and just everything got crushed. That was a good year for me to start getting back on my feet. 2011, I did better. 2011, we started the Short Sale Pros, which was a huge success, my partner and I. And then we started doing flips and then selling all this, and everything really started to take off in 11, and then from where we're at today. But as I started to work with our referral partner, my ask was, all right, you're going to focus on building this. And they were a company that was, it's the largest lender in the world, right? And at the time, they were probably up there too. But I knew they were going to grow that model. And I said, all right, well, if I can do a great job, can we service more consumers? And I said, as long as you do a great job, we have no problem with that. So they allowed me to grow. And that was in Phoenix. And so what I started to realize was, okay, I can drive business from this channel. I can drive business from this channel. But what happens is I'm now creating a leverage game where it just clicked. I just got to go be the rainmaker. If I can go bring in business and have good people servicing that business, I can just focus on building the business. Now at the time in 11, so that's what, 13 years ago? So I'm 30 then. And I was thinking about my own success in the field, but creating just a different revenue stream. So revenue stream from bringing in business, but if I chose to work the business as it came in, I could do so. Mm-hmm. And then it just got to a point where we started getting a lot more business there. And then I became more successful in the field, and I was able to add more buyer's agents. And then my thought was maybe I could do this in other markets. So we started to add different markets. Partner trusted me to do that, thank God. And then I started to fully understand, but I was also still in the field. And, I was really fortunate. I was the number one agent in Arizona when I was 33, 34 years old. And I held that for about 4 or 5 years. And so I was doing really well personally in the field. I started to dabble more in the high-end luxury because I got luxury builder clients that were working with me that when they needed to sell their home, they sold with me because they were buying one of the build. Like it just kind of all steamrolled over a period of 3 years where I really was doing more luxury. I'd never considered myself a luxury agent, but most of my stuff was luxury out here. And it was great. So I was always in beautiful homes and high-end clientele, and it was cool. I'm not talking like Beverly Hills clientele, but high-end clientele for Phoenix at the time. My average purchase price was around 1.4, which was really good back in 2013 and 14, and then through 15, and started growing that. But I was also being able to pay attention to the team and how many agents I had, how many deals were coming through. But I bet the house on our system when we were building it that we need to be able to build a product that is built around B2B, not B2C, because you need B2C. But if I can build these channel accounts, maybe we're on to something. And, you know, you don't know it at the time, but the reality is we pioneered that model.
Yeah.
We pioneered the broker B2B model. No question about it, unequivocally, no doubt about it. And, you know, today you fast forward, I've never lost a partner. So we got to be doing something right.
You just keep gaining partners.
Yeah, but, and you know, those ones that are like the OGs, they got a special place in my heart for sure. And so many of those people that have helped my career along the way have become much more closer than any business relationship. You care about people deeply because they've helped you tremendously. And a lot of times what happened, like in anything, you know, they go from one place to another and they got a new thing, and they go from one place to another, got a new thing. And so as long as people like you and trust you and you can perform, you'll always have opportunity. And that's all my career is that I've just gotten to meet more and more people that need our services. You need services when it comes to real estate. We're that service. So you fast forward to today, you got, you know, we'll manage $50 billion this year in referrals. $50 billion in referrals. Where not too long ago, in good old 2011, I was getting about $600,000 a month in referrals. So you go from 600,000 in volume a month, so call that 7 million a year, to 50 billion. And it's all because we built our whole model around other people.
Do you know, has any other brokerage, have they attempted to try to copy? I mean, have you seen copycat where they kind of looking at trying to do
it's hard
something
for a
like
broker
that?
to copy
or you knew you had something that nobody else could get?
No, I think what we do exists on more of a local team level. A lot of these groups now are closed groups. You can't even get into them in terms of companies that we partner with and have referral partners to. They have their partners. We're never someone's only partner. And I think that's a good thing because it keeps us on our toes. But it's more of a local level. Like teams have referral partners, right? And local markets. Some have a couple different markets. But the issue that the brokers have is, and it's not an issue, they just have a different model. They're in the business of recruiting agents. We're in the business of recruiting agents when we know we have deal flow. We recruit around business, not around agents. We recruit based on the fact of, if you join JMG and we have a spot for you, we're going to give you opportunity to grow your business like never before. But if you fail, we got to remove you, and we do it quickly because we have to be accountable to our partners. And brokerages just simply don't have the mechanism of accountability, nor do they have the ability to do these carve outs because, you know, when you're a big box brokerage and all of a sudden you start creating these carve outs in local markets, you have other agents saying, well, I want to. And then what ends up happening a lot of times is broker owners use the referral channel as a recruiting tool for agents to come to the brokerage. That doesn't do that referral partner any good. Like, this isn't a carrot to come join JMG. Like, we'll give you one a month. We'll give you a couple a month. This is the model. The model is, as long as you're closing deals, you'll be busy forever. But this isn't like, hey, come on over and we'll send you a deal. Like, for what? What good is that? And plus, another thing they do too is there's no value to an agent if I give you 1 or 2 referrals a month and you close an extra 3 deals a year. Big deal. If you can close an extra 25, 30 deals a year, now I'm important to you. Just like our partners. It's the same approach, just differently. If a referral partner is giving us 10 referrals a month, how much attention can I possibly give you when I have referral partners sending us hundreds, some thousands, right? Same approach to the agents. The agents then look at us and say, I'm getting 90 high quality referrals a year. Yeah, like I'll be coachable. I'll attend that meeting because if I don't, I'm not going to get them anymore. And so I think we have a greater level of accountability to our agents than most places. But our model does exist on I think a more of a team level. And the problem with the team level is they're governed by corporate. See, what's very unique about JMG is that because we're the brokerage behind the wheel, I can be nimble. If a partner called me today that was a big partner of ours and they were like, we want to up our referral fee 20%, I would say, you sure you don't want 30? Where a lot of people would say, What do you mean? Oh my God. No, I'll just take concessions. Fine. I'll still pay my agents the same amount. I'll take the hit at corporate because I can, because I'm not losing that partnership.
Right.
But I know by doing the right thing, I'll get more volume. So that allows us to be flexible and be nimble. Where if you're a team at a brokerage, that brokerage really determines the rules, especially if you're at a corporate brokerage that's like publicly traded, that has corporate splits, franchise fees, then you get team lead. Like eventually there's only so much to go around, right? Like you can only divide the pie so much. And I think that's what makes JMG very scalable, and why a lot of the partners like JMG is because whatever I got to do to service you, consider it done. We'll figure it out later. I'll give you anything you want as long as you're fair, and they always are, most of them. We'll figure it out. You want more referral fee because you got higher cost basis or whatever? No problem. But don't worry, because my agents aren't going to take it out of their pocket. I mean, you close deals. If there are partners that we pay 70% on company gen versus 50%, right? Well, we do that because I want every agent at this company to know that whether it's a $150,000 referral or a $500,000 referral, I want you to want to work it. But if I'm going to be greedy and there's a 50% referral fee, and then I'm 50-50 on a $150,000 deal, you're not even going to pay attention to that consumer because you're going to spend all this time to make what, $1,000?
Right.
It just doesn't work. And so we are nimble internally on every single partnership that we have, so our agents want to service those consumers.
So as we're recording this episode, August 14th, so we're a couple days away from the face of real estate changing with all the NAR stuff coming up.
Yeah.
With that. So, and I'm not going to get into the whole lawsuit component and everything that's involved, kind of with that. But, for the most part, where do you think this is going to take us in the real estate industry with these kind of changes that are happening here in a couple days?
Well, I like them. I mean, it allows me to effectively manage a pipeline better because I have a buyer broker agreement signed. I know my serious buyers from my not. I also think it's a protective level that everybody freaking out. It's like at the end of the day, when you consider the negotiation side, I think the advantage is you don't have another listing agent that's determining how much money you're going to make when you sell a property on the buy side. Like, it just never made sense to me that you could have spent 3 months with somebody, tons of time, but because they fell in love with this home and not that home, you're only making 1.5% instead of making 3% because that person determined that's what your worth is 4 months ago. That's nuts. And so what we're going to find is that just like in commercial real estate, my offer is $500,000. I want 3% commission. And the seller is going to say, all right, if these are the cost of sale, then I want 510. And you're going to turn around to your client and say, you can buy it at 510. The commissions will be negotiated second, or they'll be negotiated while in escrow through inspection periods and inspection items. Like, it's all about, and it always has been, what's the net? That's why I say too, the only thing we really need to know is your client willing to pay a co-broke? Is your seller willing to pay commissions? If the answer is yes, the second follow-up shouldn't be, well, how much? Because to me, that's a dumb question. Because they're going to respond to, their response is going to be, depends on what you're offering.
Right.
So that's the only thing that matters. That's why how real estate's been done for so long is pretty crazy, because for me to sit down with a seller and say, I'm going to charge you 5% instead of 6%. Okay, that's great. The only thing that matters is how much are you getting for my house? So if you got to pay 5% and you got $500K, okay, you wouldn't pay 6 if I got you 520. It's all relative.
Right.
It's the net, and that's the way it should be done. The only way that this gets, in a sense, tricky is weak listing agents that don't prep theirs. You don't have to sit down with your seller and say, we're going to pay a buyer's agent 3%. My response is going to be, I'm not sure. It depends on what we get for your home. I would bank on, in the back of your mind, somewhere in the ballpark of 3%. But at the end of the day, I'm going to present you with an offer, and you're going to look at the whole offer and determine, is that good enough for you to walk away and sell your house? Where we're in a good setting is inventory's up 44% in the past year. homes are sitting on the market longer. And mark my word, you may see some markets actually go down in terms of value. I think the FHA, VA, and the lower demographic market, I honestly think that there's not going to be a lot of appreciation in those markets for the next couple of years. I don't. And even if rates go down, I still don't see it. And the reason that is because we have consumers that are tapped. They can't get credit cards anymore. They're maxed on that. And if they've already used a cash out at their 80% LTV limit or whatever the LTV limit is on their cash out, they're going to be forced to sell, which is what's happening as we speak. That's why more houses are hitting the market. People have to sell. And so the more inventory you got, guess what? The more power the buyer has and the buyer brokers have. And when we talk about the commissions from an agent perspective, it's not about the agent. It's the fact that my buyer doesn't want to have to come out of pocket to pay the commissions. Everybody should be paid. But what we used to not do was get a buyer broker agreement signed up front. My fees are 3%. And you've heard me say this multiple times. When I hire an attorney, I know what their fees are up front. When I hire an accountant, I know what their fees are up front. These are my fees. In most cases, the seller's paying for these fees through the contract and through the offering price. In the cases that they're not willing to do this for whatever reason, which is, in a sense, if you're not willing to pay a co-broke, someone's just going to negotiate 3% less on the price of the house anyways. Like, that's just common sense. But in the case where they're not, you can decide if you want to buy the home and come out of my fees out of your pocket, or we can just look at the next one. And the more inventory that comes on, the more that they're going to say, we'll just look at the next one, because I don't want to come up with 12 grand out of my pocket. Right. That's what the conversation is going to be. I like the fact that we get a buyer broker agreement signed up front. I like the fact that we're going to create our own worth. I said this last night at dinner. I think a lot of agents are going to say 4%. My fee's 4%. You don't want to work with me, that's fine. But I'm the best in the market. I'm the best at what I do. And you might be paying 4%. Maybe that's 1% over the standard agent. But guess what? There's a reason I sell as many homes as I do. Because I'm the best negotiator you'll find. Because as a buyer's agent, the reality is if it's a $500,000 purchase and I'm charging you 4%, that's 20 grand, right? Okay. But what if I'm better at negotiating the other person and I can get it to you for 485? Would you still pay me my 4? Sure. Because you say 15. So if I can save 15, wouldn't you give me an extra 5? Sure. Yeah. It's who can create the worth is who's going to win.
So when, social media being social media and everybody's, jumping in on their opinions, and, when this whole thing was going down, it was automatic. People were saying, good luck, buyer's agents. They're going away. Buyer's agent compensation is done. You can forget about it. Why now and especially for JMG. So why now is being a buyer's agent a really good thing right now? And then having JMG with the model that we have is better for those buyer's agents.
Well, for the buyer's agents, look, you get to create your own worth. I mean, the fact that we can talk about commissions openly and honestly now versus, every state's different. But in Arizona, you couldn't whisper commissions. You can put it on a contract. Whatever that MLS sheet said, that's what you got paid. That's crazy. Now it's open discussion. I'm going to tell my client up front. I'm telling you, most clients, we get caught up because we do this out every day. Mm-hmm. Most people don't know. And most people would say that just seems like that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Because it just makes sense. Here's my fees. Hopefully the seller's willing to pay it so you don't have to come out of pocket and it's rolled into the purchase price. If it's not, I'll let you know up front and you tell me what you want to do. That sounds pretty easy to me. It's a matter of explanation. And when I'm submitting a deal on a home, my fees, whatever I want it to be, whether it's 5%, 3%, 2%, doesn't matter. I'm not negotiating that. I have a worth. I have a value. And I was doing a podcast, I think it was Housing Wire or Rids Media, I can't remember. And somebody fired along the total commissions. I said, we lose sight of going on tour, seeing 5 homes is a 6-hour day. Plus I had to look up the property, schedule the tours, do all that stuff, right? Then I got to negotiate. I might have to go back on tour because I don't get the deal done. Then I got inspections. I would bet you, and I'd love to see, I'm sure there's something out there, that the average hours that a real estate agent puts into one particular home of selling it. Some is more than others because some people buy on the first tour, some take 5. Some take 5 and don't ever buy. So what I said was, let's say it's 40 hours for one home, total work, including looking up properties, calling people, everything that's involved. Let's say it's 40 hours. Let's say it's 40 hours and you get paid $10,000. Okay. That's what? $400 an hour. This guy replied and said, $400 an hour is ludicrous. Like, who would ever pay that? And my response was, are you nuts? This is a specialty. This is not, I'm an expert. I would never, ever hire an attorney that only makes $100 an hour. You know why? Because they're probably not good at what they do.
Right.
And that's $100 an hour. My attorneys, they range from $550 an hour to my DC attorneys are $1,200 an hour. Like, because they're specialists at what they do. I don't know a CPA that only charges $80 an hour. And if they do, I don't want them doing my taxes. We're specialists. $400 an hour is fair. You get me. This is all I do. I'm great at what I do. I sell 50 houses a year, 40 houses a year, whatever it is. But this is my living. This is my profession. I'm a specialist at what I do. $400 an hour seems pretty fair. Some people would say I deserve $2,000 or $1,000. It doesn't matter. My point is, he was wrong. To say, when you look at somebody that makes $400 an hour, you immediately say, wow, they're well paid. Okay, but I should be well paid because I'm dedicating X amount of hours to having you buy a home. And in most cases, your 3% is rolled into the contract in terms of financing, where you're only paying an extra $11 a month or $12 a month, whatever it is, for my services to you. And hopefully I'm good enough to where I got you the absolute best deal and I gave you the best service you could get. And the only way that that's measured is, do they call you to sell that home 5 years down the road? And if they did, then you did your job. But nobody could ever look at a real estate agent from an hourly perspective and say they're not worth it. Says who?
Right. Jumping back to the NAR thing, do you think now we're actually less transparent?
Yeah,
Because
I hate the fact that I don't like...
Because I know you came on after that announcement on the settlement. I mean, you were, within hours.
Yeah.
You jumped on YouTube Live.
Yeah.
And we're, going at it with that.
Well, because I still think NAR sold us out, and I I don't know Kevin Sears, who took over. I heard he's a wonderful guy. I got a good friend of mine who's very close with him. I heard he's great. He wasn't there when this happened. This ain't a him thing. But there's a bunch of stuff about that I've already talked about. But what I'll say is, where they really screwed up was the fact that I don't care if we had to put a percentage. What I care about is we should at least be able to say yes or no. Because that way, my client knows ahead of time, instead of me having to make a phone call, waiting for an agent to pick up the phone or answering an email, because I can't show them that house if I don't know you're paying a co-broke, because they might not have the cash to come out of pocket, period. So I need to know up front before I take a client to a home, are you paying a co-broke?
Right.
You don't have to tell me how much. It doesn't matter because I'll negotiate that in the contract.
Right.
But I need to know yes or no.
So yes or no.
Because if the answer is no and I take them there and they fall in love with that home and they don't have the money to pay me, now what? That's horrible for the consumer. Horrible. So I hate the fact that they said, like, I don't care about the percentage. You can't put 2, 3, 4%, 5%. You can't put any of that. Fine, no problem. But we should be able to indicate yes or no, because it's better for the client. It's better. So when I'm looking at that house, when you send me that home and you say, I like this one, I want to go see it, and it says yes, I say, no problem, let me get it scheduled. And if it says no, I can immediately say, the only problem with this one is this. Are you okay with that? I'm okay with that. Great, let's go see it.
Yep.
But now I got to make a phone call before I can even respond. That's dumb. That's just dumb. So I hope that at some point that gets fixed, because that's stupid. I don't need to know the percentage and how much is being paid. I just need to know if you're willing to do so. The rest will get worked out in the net.
What do you think is going to happen maybe 3 months from now with this whole thing? I mean, are we, once all this kind of stuff happens?
I'm so sick of it. Every day, there's a new lawsuit filed somewhere. Buyer lawsuit here.
And now brokers are
having antitrust lawsuits against NAR. Like, it's just never ending. And so for me, that's why I've been pretty quiet about it, because the reality is that we're in this limbo phase of who knows how it shakes out. A lot of people are like, making these sudden changes and trying to be ahead of the curve when the reality is you don't know where the curve is. Like, even with all these lawsuits, what protection from what? Like, there's a lot of people leaving NAR now. They're going to get antitrust lawsuits. Like, the whole thing is an explosion because what happened should have never happened in the first place. It was a good system. It was a good system. And there was no reason to fix the system. And anybody that says that buyer's agents get paid too much or listing agents get paid too much, let me ask you this question. When you're selling a high value asset, the average across the country is 2.5%. That's 5 times less than expensive art or classic cars or other expensive things that get sold from a broker. Everyone gets paid. They actually get paid 10 to 12%. If you go buy art at Sotheby's today and you buy a $100,000 piece of art, you're paying 110. You as the buyer, just like now that's happening, you're paying above strike price. That's on you. And you know that as the buyer. That's what's happening now. The difference is they looked at real estate agents being paid too much, or they were not being upfront with consumers. Well, that's BS. Don't tell me as a seller you don't know. Like, the argument was sellers didn't know that buyers agents were being paid. That's not true. But even if it was true, even if that's a true statement, the only thing you know is I'm paying 5%. Whether I'm keeping 4.5% and paying somebody a half, whether I'm keeping 4.99% and paying somebody 0.01, or whether I'm splitting that, the reality is you said okay to 5%. It doesn't matter where the money gets split. As long as I sell your home, you know you got to pay 5%. So no seller could ever say with a straight face that you didn't know you had to pay a fee. That what they're saying is we didn't have to know you had to pay a buyer's agent. So what? Doesn't matter. You knew the number. The number's a number. It doesn't matter if I paid somebody, didn't pay somebody. You knew that you were paying 5% cost of sale. Period. End of story. So I thought that was a BS argument. And I didn't think the system was broke. NAR caved, and they could have done a lot of things prior to this that they didn't do. And I think they sold out the real estate community in the sense of they went back and horse traded a huge number, 5 billion, whatever it was, to go to 400 million, paid over 3-5 years, whatever. I don't even remember at this point, to basically make headlines that now the government can say, we saved X amount of dollars in real estate commissions. We're so good to the people and the government's great and all this other bullshit. And the reality is that they sold us out because they're creating a bad user experience for the people that are buying houses. It's not a good experience now because when you talk about transparency, now guess what? There's less transparency with the consumer because I can just call you and say, I'll tell you what, I'll get them the 500, but you got to pay me 6. I'll tell you what, I'll get them the 800, but you got to pay me 5.5. Like, I can now openly talk about my commissions into a contract, whereas before it was set. And again, I don't like being set because somebody else is telling you what it's worth, but everybody knew what it was. A consumer knew what it was. A consumer also knew that I don't have to come out of my pocket on this house because I can see that it's paying a co-broke of 3% or 2.5%, whatever it was. It's less transparent now. You have to verbalize I guess what I'm saying is you have to verbalize the transparency now instead of it just being right in front of your face. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know where it shakes out because every day there's a new lawsuit. Every day there's this, every day there's that. I'm just being quiet, going to work every day and doing the best I can do with what we're given. But I think that it's going to be a position where it's going to be just fine. Where our commission's being negotiated into a contract as the net to the seller and saying, this is what the offer is. Do you want it or not? Like, I mean, we're going to where how all things become negotiated, right? Instead of being able to take a piece of art and saying, you know what? I'm going to keep 3.5 on the sale and only pay 2.5, or I'm going to actually take 4 on the sale and only pay 2, having somebody else determine what the strike price is against the commissions, where it's just negotiated. Everything's negotiable. That's the way life is. Like, if I go today to a tire store, if I go to Discount Tire, people are like, you can't negotiate that. Well, I can. They may say no, but I can ask, can I? You can ask anything.
Yep.
You can ask anything you want. Like, that's just the way life is.
What's next for JMG? I mean, because I know you're, from the visionary component of where you built this brokerage to being the #1 real estate mega sales team in the country based on volume, which is just phenomenal, right? what's next? How do you top that?
Well, we got a lot of runway. I mean, we have so many markets we want to get into that we're not in. And we have partners that are itching to allow us to service them in these areas. So it's an amazing, that is what keeps me up at night. One, how do we add good talent in areas we're not in, and how do we up our talent in areas that we are in? The reality is, as long as we perform, the business is going to be there. And this business is only going to grow because you're going to need agents, trusted agents, to service your client more than ever. And we provide that experience. Anybody that argues that the trusted agent partners that these organizations have isn't better than them going to the abyss and just finding a random agent is just lying to you. They're just wrong. These are vetted, trusted real estate professionals that are out there to provide a service to somebody else's consumer. I'll take that all day long over me just Googling somebody, right? Or hearing, well, my aunt's cousin's brother who does hair part-time is actually in real estate. You should go work with them. I'm sorry, but I'll take the trusted panel of agents. And so I think that just continues to get bigger and bigger in servicing businesses. And for us, we just have so much more room to grow in the U.S., but our model isn't a domestic model. Wherever there's transactions on purchase and finance, we can play a role. So whether that be Canada, in Europe, wherever it is, the opportunity is endless for JMG.
And I know we want to get to an agent count. You keep talking about that 1,600 number for kind of agent count for that. And then you're seeing a lot of these other brokerages that are, hey, we just got our 20,000th agent, and it's a big kind of to-do thing for that. Yeah. And
it's great.
But we talk about this, and when I'm talking about it, it's by design. We want to keep it small.
I have no interest
by
in
design.
Look, think about today. I don't know how many, say 850 agents. All right. If I tripled that tomorrow, all that means is all these other agents only get a third of what they got today. I need to go get more business and open more markets. Then I can add more agents. We don't lead by just go recruit a bunch of agents. We go by areas that we need agents that we're already in because we have non-performing agents, or we added partnerships, and then areas that we're not in. And if we stay true to that model, we're bringing more value to agents than anybody else because we know that we can give them opportunity to grow their book of business. Whereas if we just went and hired agents, but I'm fine with that. EXP's got 90,000 agents, whatever. That's an incredible feat. Keller Williams, all the agents they have, Compass, Robert and his team, they're great. They're great companies. There's no question. They all have their own different niches and their own different models. We just happen to have a model where I don't want 5,000 agents. It doesn't do me any good to have 5,000 agents. I want enough agents that can, however many agents we need to service our partnerships is how many agents we're going to have. Our growth is getting into markets that we're not in and opening, like we just opened Birmingham. Okay, great. I don't want 100 agents in Birmingham, Alabama. I want 6. I don't want 100 agents in New Orleans, Louisiana. I want 20. I don't want 100 agents in Boston. I want 20, right? There's a number because there's only so much business to go around. We're going to lead by that. That's going to tell the whole story.
Are you planning on are we going to get to that international component?
I just think we have so much work to do here in the U.S. I mean, we are licensed in Canada. We have Toronto that's open. Yep. I haven't ventured down the path of finding agents there yet because I'm focused on where I know I can get business 100%, and that is the United States, and our partners that are willing to help support that. So we just have a lot more markets here in the U.S. that we need to get into. But it also is a leadership thing. If the right leader comes along, I'll open it. I lead by leadership too. I mean, we're not licensed in Iowa. But if I got a call next week from a great team leader in Des Moines, Iowa, that was like, we love your model, we'd love to be a part of it, guess what? What I know is I can get business in Des Moines. I'm not worried about that piece. I just need the right agents and leadership to manage that business. And if that person came along, we would do it. So there's factors to it.
Let's see. As of our record date as well, we're only a few weeks out from NFL season kicking off, and so yes. I know. But talk a little bit about your.
You guys are in trouble.
I don't know. I saw that first quarter and a half of Bo Nix. I'm pretty excited.
I think there's runway
opposed to what we had last year. But talk to me about your
fire last year. I love the Broncos too. I just it's gonna be a tough year, I think, for the Broncos. I actually think I think Sean Payton's a great coach. I think he's gonna do well, and I think in a couple of years you guys will be good. What I got really disappointed in was JJ tore his
Meniscus.
yesterday. That's a
Full.
bummer.
Yeah.
Like to miss your rookie season because of that in training camp or in spring training or whatever the hell they call it, preseason. I think that's going to set him back a bit because, he was never a shoo-in anyway to be like an all-star as it is, right? Like I think he needed some time as it is. And he's very beloved from the Michigan alumni, but that was a bummer to see. But I do think our Lions are gonna ball out this year. I think they're gonna do great. The culture is phenomenal. What Campbell created, and we got all our guys signed. So
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a good year.
What do you think they're going to end up record-wise?
I think 11-6. I think 11-6. They win the division, but Packers are gonna be tough this year. Maybe 12-5, but yeah, I think they're gonna do really well. I think they're gonna do great. I'm excited for the Lions, and we can't say that coming from Metro Detroit a whole lot. Like I'm excited
Right.
for the Lions.
Yep.
The Pistons, I'm not excited for. Did you know the Lions won as many games last year as the Detroit Pistons?
Pistons did, yeah.
They won the same amount of games.
That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
The legacy that the Pistons have, and you need to see something like that with. But
Well, they fired Monty Williams. They gave him what, 100 million?
yeah.
Now he's gone. I mean, you got to give props to the owner for saying, I'm just not tolerating that, because you got to eat that. And that says a lot to me. Like, at least you can say that ownership's invested, right? Because otherwise, like most owners would say, well, I'm stuck at least for 4 or 5 more years because I can't replace this quite yet. So props to them for like saying we need a good product. So Detroit sports, Lions are going to be good. Red Wings will be good. Red Wings will make the playoffs this year. Tigers, I don't know. They're going to just be 50-50 like they always are. And yeah, the Pistons got a lot of work to do. But my Cardinals, I think, are actually going to surprise people too.
Yeah.
I think so. I think the Cardinals win 9 games this year.
Wow, pretty good.
I do.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens on the Broncos side, but and then we'll see how we bounce back on the Nuggets side with this whole Jamal Murray thing. And
I thought last year you were going to do it again. Joker cracks me up. That guy just don't care about basketball, and he is so good at it. It's like the most nonchalant, could care less, yet I'm the best in the world.
I know a lot of people were rooting for Serbia because of Jokic.
Sure.
Not even Team USA.
Sure.
And they'd had enough of Team USA.
I
Even
mean,
focusing on one player,
to not root for your country is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to root for Serbia, number 2, I guess. But like, if you live in the U.S. and you don't love the USA, I have an issue.
Bigger
with
problems.
that. Yeah. Like, it's the best country in the world, man.
Jason, thanks, brother. Appreciate you
Yeah.
hanging out today. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
How you doing, me?